It's like we got a new trade deadline for the NHL because what's happened over the last like 24 to 48 hours has been absolutely insane. This isn't your normal, early March trade deadline fodder with a bunch of old guys getting traded. It's been a bunch of young studs that have been moved. A lot of big names, including some that we've heard about before and some just out of the blue. So just this kind of shows you what's going to happen going forward at this point because free agency is so weak, but teams have so much cap space. Other teams have maneuvers to make that are kind of up against the cap and they have to sign a lot of RFAs. There's a little bit of everything. And honestly, as a hockey fan, it's very exciting. It's exciting to see trades happen. It always has been, but it's also more exciting when you see some young talent move that you would think would be untouchable or don't really expect it to ever happen. There's a lot of times you hear rumors about a certain guy being on the block or something, then nothing ever happens. But the craziness started when we saw what happened last weekend in terms of Brady Tkachuk getting traded to Florida. Ottawa got a bunch of futures in that deal, including the number 9 pick for this Friday's draft, which is a top 10 pick. So they could have either gone with another young piece to kind of build with. But Ottawa had already done the work. So when you look at that, they are trying to compete and they worked so hard to kind of build up. They made the playoffs the last 2 years. Yeah, Brady wanting out, and that's not a surprise really. I mean, I think Steve Staios did a good job of getting rid of him sooner rather than later. And what they did was the other day, they took that 9th overall pick and shipped it to the San Jose Sharks for William Eklund. And they also got a couple other prospects in the deal as well, but obviously the main piece is Eklund, who is signed for 3 more years at $5.6 million. And now Eklund doesn't, replace Brady one for one because Brady is a better overall player, but Eklund's got talent as well. So it's not like he's just some, guy that they're just trying to plug in. Eklund had, I think, 53 points last year. 2 years in a row, he's cleared the 50-point barrier. Easily with potential to get more, especially if he's playing on the top line with Tim Stützle. So that is a fantastic return. And then we don't know if Ottawa will do something with the other picks that they got. They have the 32nd overall, which the league gave back to them at the end of the first round there, but they can't trade that pick. They got the 25th pick still, so if they want to make moves, they still can. There are rumors. A couple of weeks ago, we heard that Ottawa was interested in Mason McTavish. They were interested in Jake DeBrusk. William Eklund's a better bet than either of those guys at this point. Yes, he's a winger, I get it, but Ottawa still, even they needed 2 top 6 wingers, so they still have more work to do. With that being said, though, I mean, Eklund helps them. They got Drake Batherson. They still have Pinto, Cousins, and Stützle down the middle, so their center depth is great. I mean, Ottawa still has a good core, even without Brady Tkachuk. And, he was hurt last year, and he wasn't as effective. He was kind of useless in the playoffs. Well, not kind of, he was. He was absolutely crap in the playoffs. So Ottawa can, still do something. Now for San Jose, Mike Grier, man, this guy is proving to be a very shrewd GM. I haven't seen him make any trades yet that have kind of backfired. We saw him do, some stuff a couple years ago with Jake Waldman trade and all that. But right now, man, Mike Grier is doing great. Like, he made that trade with Buffalo to get Michael Kesselring, and so that helps their D, which is something they need. And in return, they moved down 7 spots, so they have the 27th pick in the draft. They already have the 2nd overall pick, and they have the 9th pick now. So they have 2 picks in the top 10. Everybody's been thinking that San Jose might move the 2nd pick, and the way things are going, who knows? Maybe by Friday this actually does happen and the pick gets moved. But I think at this point, what their move by trading Eklund does is allow them to draft Ivor Stenberg with a 2nd pick because, yeah, defense is a need for them, but Stenberg is the 2nd best player on the board. We know Gavin McKenna will go to Toronto, so San Jose, if they take Stenberg, he's also on an entry-level deal then. They got rid of Eklund's cap hit, and also they get to, save some of that money to pay Max and Celebrini when they have to give him an extension. So it's actually very shrewd, and by getting the 9th pick, they will still be able to get one of the better defensemen, whoever's left out of that group of, Carson Karros, Keaton Verhoeven, Daxon Rudolph. And, there's Chase Reed, I think, will go early. There's also Albert Smits in there. Like, there's a lot of guys. There's, after Stenberg, we expect Caleb Malhotra and Viggo Bjork to be 2 other guys that go in the top 10. So San Jose can grab whatever, and they have a chance. And they might still flip one of those picks. Like, I mean, Mike Greer apparently has been getting strong offers on the second overall pick, but he's also gotten calls on the ninth pick again. So either way, San Jose is in a position of strength to deal and get some more young pieces and do what they need to do to upgrade that defensive core and add some more depth around Celebrini. Because if they draft Stenberg, they're going to have Stenberg, Misa, Celebrini, and Will Smith as their core four up front. That's fantastic. They still have other young guys. Quentin Musty still has to. Don't know if he's going to translate well in the NHL. We haven't really seen him get an extended look yet. Sam Dickinson, we don't know what he is yet, and obviously Askarov kind of struggled, but eventually you would think that he's a young goalie, he might get his footing, and he was supposed to be an elite goalie, so chances are you can still develop into one. So San Jose, they're looking good. And the other deal that happened that kind of came out of the blue that wasn't expected, we'd heard the name being rumored about, but not the team that acquired him, is we saw the Calgary Flames trade for Simon Nemec from the New Jersey Devils. Nemec's name had been out there in terms of that he was looking for a new contract. And then also on top of that, it was about, New Jersey has to manage their cap space. They fired Tom Fitzgerald, they brought in Sonny Mehta, who was, helping Florida as an assistant GM. So they're hoping to use his pedigree to build a good team around in the Devils organization there so they can compete going forward. But, Luke Hughes got paid, and Luke Hughes made a lot of mistakes. But they didn't really shy away, so they pretty much picked one or the other and decided to go with Luke Hughes because Nemec also played well. He's also young, has made mistakes. He so far hasn't translated to be a high-end player yet, but remember, he's only 22. And again, the biggest thing to remember, defensemen take time. The blue liners, not everybody's a Matthew Schaefer. Not everybody comes in and lights the league on fire. It doesn't happen that often. Sometimes it takes guys a couple of years before they get going. And I fully expect, in this case, that, it's not going to be an issue for Nemec to get going. I think he just needs maybe a year or two, and he'll get his minutes in Calgary. And the whole, the funny thing is that you see people complaining on both sides. Even Flames fans are like, oh my gosh, can't believe I gave up 2 firsts for this guy. Really? Nemec was the second overall pick just in 2022. And, he went second after Slavkovsky. Both are Slovakian. Then it was Logan Cooley and then Shane Wright that draft. I know there's other good players that went later in that draft as well, but still, Nemec has, a pedigree. And I get it, draft doesn't always translate, and people are going to be like, oh, then why did New Jersey trade him? Well, New Jersey has cap issues, and they can't just sign every guy they have, and maybe the thought is that Meta can take these picks and flip them for other help, which, the need desperately up front, especially in the top 6. But even then, for Calgary's perspective, this is a fantastic play. And then the thought was, well, why did Calgary get Nemec when they already have Zach Whitecloud, who they want to keep? They have Zane Parekh as their other main stud. And they also have Hunter Brzustevich, another young defenseman. All are right-handed shots. And of course, that's a luxury the Flames have that not too many other teams in the league have. But then Craig Conroy went on a local radio station in Calgary and said that Zane Parekh told him at their year-end exit interview that he actually prefers the left side, and he played the left side with Whitecloud near the end of the season last year, and he had a really good 12-15 games he played in that position and did really well. So if that's the case, that already kind of sets up Calgary to have Ball team up with Nemec on the second pair and have Whitecloud and Parekh be the first pair. Then you got Kuznetsov and Brzustevich on the third pair. I don't think Conroy's done. He's probably got more moves. He still has a glut of defensemen, because if you have all those guys, you still have Olli Mata, as a 7th, and which would be fine. But you also have a glut of wings because you got Maxim Siplikov in that deal. So, going back to that deal, the Devils traded Simon Nemec and winger Maxim Siplikov, who is someone they had gotten from the Islanders. He's only been in the league for 2 years. He's, I think, a 28-year-old winger. And in return, Calgary traded prospect Etienne Morin, who's a defenseman, a first overall, which is the one they got from the Vegas trade for Rasmus Anderson, which is a 2027 first, which is a protected top 10 pick. And then also the 2028 Colorado first rounder, which was the one they got from the Nazem Kadri deal, which is also top 10 protected. So really, when you think about it, and also, they also gave up a second round pick in this year's draft, which is the Rangers pick, which I think is 35th overall. That is the only piece they gave up. But the Flames have a lot of assets. They have a lot of picks. You can't get mad at them and just make every pick. You can't make every pick. You gotta stagger this somehow. You need more young NHL players, and you're gonna tell me that you're gonna be upset that the Flames traded a potential pick that the best it can be, the highest it could possibly be. Worst case scenario, for Vegas and Colorado, if they suck for whatever in the next couple of years, the highest that pick possibly could be is 11th. It's not a top 10 pick. So whoever you get, and chances are those two teams are still Stanley Cup contenders. They're not going anywhere. And the pick's probably going to be between 20 and 32 anyways. So you're telling me you're upset that Calgary traded those picks for taking a swing on a defenseman that was picked second overall just 4 years ago? Like, are you kidding me? That is a great trade for Calgary. It's fantastic. If it doesn't work out, sure, yes, Nemec does have to sign a new contract. But the other thing is with Nemec is that, whatever they have, Calgary doesn't have cap issues. It's fine. He'll probably sign a 7-year deal for, probably 7, maybe 8. I don't know, around there. That's fine. If you're going to tell me that Toronto signing Darren Radish for 8 years at 8.5 was a great deal, then why is Nemec not a great deal at that price? Because I'm pretty sure Nemec is going to have a lot more upside than Darren freaking Radish is for the rest of that contract. Put it into perspective. Nemec will be 30 if he, signed that kind of contract, whereas Radish is starting his contract at 30. Anyways, I digress. I think that was a fantastic move, and we'll see what else Calgary does here. After that trade happened, there was a few other kind of crazy trades that happened. One was St. Louis Blues finally, after months of speculation, Jordan Kyrou was traded to the Washington Capitals for a package that got the Blues Connor McMichael, one another prospect, and the 16th overall pick in this Friday's NHL draft. So the St. Louis Blues have 4 picks in the first round. Yes, none of them are in the top 10. I think they have 11th, and then now they have a 15th and 16th back-to-back, and they have another pick in the 20s. St. Louis, man, Doug Armstrong on his way out is trying to make some moves here. Connor McMichael is an adequate replacement for Kyrou. Kyrou's been very up and down. A lot of fans haven't liked him, and some fans appreciate his play, but some fans just can't stand the guy. So, I don't know. I think that worked out well, and for St. Louis, they could take those picks. They can package them up. Obviously, they could take the Ruck twins, but 15th and 16th is too high to draft both of them. But perhaps they can move down a little bit to maybe, have 2 picks closer together in the lower part of the first round and do something like that. Like, there's so many options. They could also easily use a couple of those picks to move into the first round. And they should be able to jump up quite a bit of spots and get some, impact player if they're looking at someone. But, I mean, that was a great trade for St. Louis. And on Washington side, I mean, I get it. I think what the Capitals are doing is trying to build a team that just in case Ovi does decide to come back, that they can maybe challenge. Or also if Ovi retires, that they still have someone kind of like as a replacement that can move up into the lineup spot that Ovechkin would have and play that role. So I think it was a steep price for Kyrou paid by the Capitals, but in the grand scheme of things, I mean, it's still, Kyrou is a better overall player than McMichael. McMichael still has potential in terms of, we might see something different with different line mates. You don't know. But yeah, so we saw that trade. And then we saw a trade kind of happen out of the blue. Bowen Byram, the Buffalo Sabres traded Bowen Byram to the Chicago Blackhawks for the 4th overall pick in the draft. The first round, 4th overall pick, a top 5 pick. What are we doing here? Kyle Davidson is not a good GM, man. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I know a lot of fans want to support the guy and think he's a good GM. He's made a lot of garbage moves. Like, this is a terrible move. He traded, the first rounder, that's 4th overall. He also traded, I think it was a 2nd rounder, that's going to be 45th overall. And he also traded, I believe, Louis Crevier, who's like that big defenseman who's played a good defensive role. Like, for Bowen Byram, nothing against Byram. He's a good player. But when you look at it, why not just keep the 4th pick and draft whatever defenseman's best on your list there? If it's Chase Reed, like, the way things are swinging, maybe at this point, Chicago was like, we really wanted Stenberg, and since we're not going to get him, since San Jose is probably going to take him now, we'll rather just trade for a win now D versus waiting for a guy to develop, which I can understand the logic, but I think the logic sucks. because the Blackhawks have drafted like ass. Like they have really messed this up. Connor Bedard needed a running mate, and it's not Tyler Bertuzzi, it's not freaking Andre Burakovsky. Shouldn't be, what is it, Ryan Donato or whoever. Like they've had so many plugs instead of getting an actual guy. Like yeah, I get they got Frank Nazar and now Anton Frundell down the middle, so Chicago's got that. The best trade that Davison made, I feel, is the one where he got Spencer Knight. Seth Jones wasn't obviously going to work in Chicago, and the fact that he got Spencer Knight out of that, I think, was great because it gave him some, solid goaltending, gives them some clarity in net, so that's good. But then their drafting has been totally garbage. Like they whiffed on Kevin Korchinski. Now, again, I'm not going to call any young defenseman a bust, and people have been already labeling Korchinski as that. I don't think it's fair to young guys that are defensemen because, again, sometimes the defensemen, they don't become big until, many years after. Like it takes them sometimes 3, 4, 5 years to finally break out. And so I think the verdict is still out. But the fact that, even when they drafted Levchinov, they passed on Demidov, and Demidov and Bedard probably would be a pretty darn good duo. So I don't know what Chicago is doing. I think that was a ridiculous trade for Buffalo. I mean, Byram was expendable. He already kind of made it clear he wasn't going to sign there. He's looking for major cash. I know he's kind of behind the concussion issues that he had earlier in his career with Colorado, but I wouldn't pay Byron that much. And Buffalo really doesn't need to. They already have a true number one of the stud number ones in the league, in Rasmus Dahlin. They have Matthias Samuelsson. They still have Owen Power. He also being a number one overall pick himself. Like Byram, they don't really need. And so now Buffalo has options by taking that fourth pick. Do they need to draft someone? They could if they want, but really, after all these years, I don't think Buffalo's rebuilding. Buffalo won the Atlantic. Buffalo wants to move forward, and Buffalo can do that by flipping that pick and getting multiple assets, perhaps, or maybe one stud player that they're after. Like, there's so much they can do with that, and it just opens up a lot of possibilities because with Chicago, we knew they're still rebuilding their team, and they got to add assets in a different way. But for Buffalo, like drafting a guy at 4, they really don't need to do that. I think they'll probably end up moving the pick and get whatever they will need to do for needs, because the other thing that Buffalo did, which is pretty good on their part as well, is Alex Tuch got traded as well. They did a sign and trade to sign him to an 8-year, $10.5 million contract, and then he was traded to the Washington Capitals for a third-round pick. I think that's a tidy piece of business for Yarmo because Tuck wasn't going to resign there. He's not worth that much, man. That's ridiculous. I get it that the salary cap's going up and, certain players, their thresholds changing because, a guy that used to be worth $4 million is probably worth now $6 million. I understand all that. But no freaking way are you going to tell me that this makes any sense. Now, in terms of the player for Washington, that's another great addition because, again, if Ovechkin comes back, they've added Tuck, they've added Kyrie. Like, those are 2 pretty good players they've added, in addition to their, Tom Wilson already still being there, Ryan Leonard being a young guy, Dylan Strome, who had a pretty bounce back season, being there. Pierre-Luc Dubois is also, like, they've got, like, pieces there. And I don't know if they'll try to re-sign John Carlson if he won't come back there or if he's going to go somewhere else. But, like, Washington is trying to position themselves, so I kind of get it. They're probably trying to maximize Ovi's window just in case he does come back for another year or two. If Ovi comes back, I think it's going to be just for one more year. It's still hard to say. It's 50-50. I wouldn't be surprised if he retires. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back. But either way, the Sabres have done well as well. They have cap space now. They were also, as part of that deal with Chicago to move Byram, they got rid of Jordan Greenway and like his $4 million cap hit too. Greenway is a good bottom 6 player, but he's always freaking hurt. So, I mean, even with that, like, I feel like Buffalo did great. Like, they got, like, Chicago, I don't understand what they're doing. To me, Davidson has made terrible move after terrible move, and yet they just re-signed him to a freaking contract extension. So I don't get it. It makes zero sense. But yeah, so we've had a lot of crazy trades, and I expect some more in the next few days before the draft takes place. We've even had a few minor deals. Nashville and Colorado, since Chris McFarland went to the Predators, they've already hooked up twice for some deals. Like last week, Ross Colton got traded from the Avs for a couple of picks to Nashville, and now Jack Drury ends up being part of a package of it's a 4-player deal where he ends up going to Nashville as well. So McFarland's trying to get some of his old Colorado guys. Maybe you should try for McKinnon and McCarr as well, I guess, right? Like just make it Colorado East. But yeah, so trade wise, it's an exciting time to be a hockey fan. We've seen some crazy stuff happen in these last few days, and I expect some more stuff to come down the pipeline in the next little bit, which will be interesting. And then also on top of that, when it comes to free agency, like I don't even know, I haven't looked at it. I don't even know who the top end guys are because the only guys I knew were Tuck and for Radish. Other than that, I hadn't even paid attention to who's on the free agent board because they all seem pretty irrelevant. So either way, with trades, we'll see all that and see what other moves teams make because I fully expect more big names to get traded. Dylan Larkin is still on the block. There's rumblings about Zach Werenski. There's rumblings about Connor Hellebuck. The Austin Matthews talk has died down, but don't know what Dallas is going to do with Jason Robertson. Maybe there'll be a sign and trade there. There's so much going on. It's actually insane. And to be honest, as a hockey fan, you gotta love it. Like it's pretty cool. In other non-trade related news, the Edmonton Oilers also officially hired Mike Babcock. I mean, I don't know, man. It's not the ideal piece I would have brought in, but clearly, if McDavid, Draisaitl, and Hyman agreed to have him there, like sure, I guess. I don't see the Oilers winning the cup, man. I wouldn't be shocked if the Oilers get knocked out in the first round again. Ever, even miss the playoffs as a whole. Like with that roster is garbage. I'm sorry, it's not even as good as it was a couple of years ago when they had that first run against Florida. It's gotten progressively worse. And again, I've said this before, Mike Babcock and Stan Bowman together is not the ideal picture you want because both covered up things literally. Mike Babcock's presser was terrible. Like, oh yeah, well I retired and just hanging out. When my wife said you're done, that's why I left Columbus. Shut the fuck up. We know you're bullshitting. Like, just be accountable, dude. Like, what do you think we're idiots? Like, it's frustrating, man. I don't know. I don't know. Like, McDavid is that desperate to win a cup that let's just go all out and try to do whatever we can. Sure, I guess. But it's going to be interesting what happens over the next little bit because right now we're just seeing some craziness leading up to the first round. And I think the way things are going, we're definitely going to get more substantial trades with big name players that some maybe we've heard rumors about and others that just come out of the blue that are like, holy crap, didn't see that coming. So catch you guys on the next one. Please make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and until next time, peace.